This podcast is brought to you by the School of Advanced Study, University of London.
Our final session of a very busy and a very exciting day. The panel session, which we're going to finish around about midnight tomorrow. Hello, Miranda, you're. I'd like to kick off by asking the panel what their takeaway was from today. I think it's very important that we all come away with ideas. And it's great to see Abdul who's been inspired by the things we do. And I'd like to see how this particular session has touched people. I'll kick off with myself. And it was something that Ryan said. It was a throwaway line, but it really touched me. Because I'm quite anti this subject in schools, because it's always belittling and puts black people on the back foot. But he said slavery is all our history. It's not just black people, it involves white people. And we look at what's happened with the Slavery Compensation Fund, and how that's being managed and that's being talked about. So perhaps we should talk slavery holistically, rather than just black people being on the back foot. So that's my takeaway. I'll be thinking a bit more about that over the coming weeks and months. So I'll start with you, Miranda. What's your takeaway?
You're putting me on the spot now. Can I have a bit more time to think about it and ask somebody else?
Well, I remember the first time I came to a conference, there was a bus one in this room, and being taken by the work that was being done by archivists to look at parish records, and how when they started to look at parish records about the existence of black people through burial records and so on, they began to find black people everywhere in the 17th and 18th century. So taking that to what I get from today is when you dig, you find. And therefore, we need to dig. And some of the stuff in the last session, and perhaps the difficult moment that we had, was also the importance of digging about everyone and everything. And when we start to dig, we will find. And there are some bits of digging that we've yet to start.
Yeah, I mean, I share that view as well as one of the many hundreds of diggers. And there just aren't enough of us. And what is nice is when you get people say, oh, I want to follow up a point that somebody has made at a conference or a workshop or a talk. So that is great. We need to recruit more people. But that actually applies to all hidden histories, not just black British history. I think the most important thing I take away from this session today is the fantastic breakthrough in terms of getting something into the GCSE through the migration option of OCR. This vindicates 15, 20 more years of BASA's campaigning on education and for fundamental change in the content. And it's particularly down, I know, to the continued work that people like Martin have put in. And I think and American, there. And so what I'm going to take away when I go back to Creighton is I'm going to make sure we start asking and getting other people to do so, what options are the schools going to sign up to? They may not even realise that it's about to hit them, because teachers will always say how busy they are, etc., etc. So I think if everyone in this room, just in their own local authority area, went back and raised this as an issue, not just privately but also publicly, then perhaps we can get more than about 200 schools signing up for this particular option.
One thing I would take away from this is just some great encouragement that there are still people who are digging and unearthing the sort of hidden histories that people like myself, teachers rely on heavily, because teachers obviously are restricted in their time and have a lot of things to do besides finding really interesting, gripping historical material, and knowing that there are people out there who are looking for stories which prove that, which go against that slogan, keep Britain white, which shows students that Britain has always been multiracial. These sort of stories which affirm sort of the longevity of the black prisons in the United Kingdom. I think I find great encouragement in that, and I hope that this is shared with teachers and other educationalists and made more commonly known.
Just a small introduction. Paul Reid, Black Cultural Archives, and it's really good to be here, and certainly up on this table. I think I'm still processing what I'm taking away from today. There's a lot that's been said. I've learned a lot. I think at the Black Cultural Archive we've just been so seriously focused and dedicated to achieving what we're trying to do. It's one of the things that we need to ensure is that that we're here as well as there, if you understand. In terms of taking away, I mean, it's reinforced for me more than anything else the need to continue to challenge, to continue to challenge the status quo, what we think it is, that is upholding these ideas, because I think we are talking about the bastions of power, and let's not shirk the kind of the big stuff. These are major defining institutions that are informing our everyday lives, and there are implications as a consequence of all of this. So, for example, for people of African descent, we may feel rightly that their history has been omitted. There are words for that. Let's not avoid them. And for everybody, this is where the struggle becomes interesting. How do you feel about being exposed to a skewed history, a skewed perspective? And if we internalize and really embrace those sentiments, it should propel us forward into change. And think these are things that are coming to me at the moment. As well as I've had some wonderful conversations with people in the room, and I think the work is continuous. Achievements have been made. Great strides we found out today. We are hearing about, which is good. But I do feel that there is also the need to continuously question terminology, question language, question methodology, and be prepared to create and invent and try and experiment. Because one thing that we know is that it is as much as it is fascinating, it's also very, very important as well.
So I've collected my thoughts a little now.
A little.
Just a little. Well, thank you, Michael. I think, like everyone else has been saying, I think today has been really heartening, because there is, firstly to see you all here and interested and involved in this subject, and also, different conversations and papers, showing that different people are finding out new and interesting things and bringing them together and in a critical way. But I suppose what I want to come from this is, and from the future events, is just that, I think we're stronger together if individuals are finding out things, but it's important to share them and to work together to put pressure on institutions to and the world around us to share all of this stuff, then I think we're stronger if we try and work together to do that. And that's partly why Michael and I are so keen to have these workshops and to build on them as well with establishing this website. But we need all of you to help us and tell us what you want from it and what we can do in future events and with the website and with any resources that the Institute here and Philip Murphy want to allow us access to. So please do give us feedback and tell us what you want next, and also submit papers, because the more different voices and different experiences we have here that we can share, the better, I think.
Forgive me, just want to add something if I may, because it's really important for the history to be known. What has happened in the school curriculum has been a result of, I came very late to this. It's a result of work that started many decades ago, and that work was initiated by several people. One of those people is sitting here, and I think it's really important to pay tribute to Marika Sherwood, because I left America, and she worried and annoyed all the different representations of the Department of Education for decades around the need for Black history to be on the school curriculum. And each point of those, and I think over the years she must have felt that it was never going to have any results, but each point of that led to the next point, which led to the next point, which led to the next point, which led eventually to some things being listened to. And although it's still a small step in a long journey, that step is only possible because we stand on the shoulders of giants. And I just wanted to be very, very importantly said that it's the work of Marika and many others, but on the particular issue of the curriculum, she's pushed so hard on that it's really important for that to be recognised.
I think perhaps our next struggle ought to be that we have no Black Studies units in our undergraduate history departments at the universities. I don't think there's a single one left in the country. Is Hakim's a Black Studies unit? I don't think it is.
That's African history.
I think we had a few, but they're all being closed down. And what we need is Black Studies units within the university history department that recognises that this has to be taught and researched. That's the easiest way, and probably the only way, of getting research money. I mean, I've never had any, as most of you probably know. That's not true. In all these years, I've had a total of £2,000 travel money. But I think this is a desperate need that we have to include in our struggles. Sorry to have interrupted everybody.
Not at all, Miranda. You're very welcome, very welcome. So I'd like to open up to the floor now. You can either share your takeaway, make a comment, as long as it's brief, or ask a question. Kathy.
It's going to be really difficult. What I'm taking away from this is that it's the women doing the work and it's the men setting the agenda. We have nothing but men here setting curricula. And I know you say what an effort you're making, Martin, but actually it's the women who are doing the research work and the men who are making it, profiting from it. I mean, I think we'll have achieved something when some man says, I know a woman who can do this job better than me. You know, I mean, I'm just slightly appalled, but there you all are. I mean, you're all doing splendid work, but all the same, it's not women who are setting the agenda. It's women who are doing the work.
So, can I turn around? How can we address that? How can we address that then? What needs to be done?
Like I say, we had this thing again in the BBC. There are all these people, these white men saying, oh, the BBC is horribly white and middle class. Well, I'm saying then resign, say, I know somebody who can do this job better. But the minute, I mean, nobody's ever going to do that, are they? They're not going to give up power.
Creighton, please. Oh, it's Abdul. Oh, it's Abdul.
Paul, the Black Georgians, the exhibition, absolutely amazing.
Oh, thank you.
What are you going to do with it in at the end of January next year.
Thank you. Well, thank you. Thank you for that. Because we need some encouragement. I think with all of our major exhibitions, what we try to do is to create learning resources for Key Stage 1, 2 and 3 across a number of subjects, and we take that work into schools. We're also involved, and schools come to us, we're also involved in creating digital exhibitions. So we've just got a wonderful relationship with Google. They have something called the Google Cultural Institute, and that team is working with us now to digitize all of our exhibitions so that it's made available to everybody. That's important. I think one of the things that's happened that we've not necessarily set out to achieve, but just seems to have happened, which I suppose in some ways speaks to the sentiment of what we're doing, is that the visitor profile of people who are coming to the Black Cultural Archives, I think, is really something to think about. There isn't quite an equal sort of black-white ratio, but in terms of age and gender, we are mostly women, taking up the point earlier, mostly women visiting, but not quite much. I mean, it's 50-something%, but the age breakdown is something like, the majority of people coming now are something like 25 to 40-year-olds. So young professional graduates, keen, eager, inquisitive minds, and going back to some of the other work, I mean, Hakim and others have been involved in looking at the whole thing about history matters and why is it that we're so disencouraged, shall we say. We're not finding that. We're finding that if the story's relevant, content's relevant, we interpret, we can relate. As they would say, if you build it, they will come. And that's what we're finding. So in terms of where is it all going, we've been open for just over a year. We are still trying to work out what the magic is that people are feeling and experiencing. But we know one thing for certain. The corridors are important. The cafe is important. The courtyard is important. People want to talk. People want to give. People want to be part of something. We don't want history done to us. We want to participate and belong to something. And I think these are the new words that we're finding that we didn't have before we opened. We were focusing very much on opening a building, a heritage centre. But in doing so, we are learning so much every day.
Can I make a suggestion? Would it be possible for you to bring that exhibition to Wolverhampton, maybe, or Birmingham?
Definitely. I mean, on each of the major exhibitions, I mentioned travelling exhibitions and resources and so on, but the plan is for every major exhibition, we have 2 major exhibitions a year, that there's a travelling element to that. And that we don't just create one travelling exhibition, that there are multiples, so that it can be in different places at the same time. And if we get caught up into this kind of Black History Month thing, then fine, it can be in many places, but it doesn't have to be Black History Month, surely. I mean, it speaks to cross-curricular in so many ways, doesn't it?
Can I just add, I mean, I agree entirely with you about the quality of the Black Georgians exhibition, and if you haven't seen it yet, please do make sure you do go. But one of the interesting things about it, partly because of space and other kind of technical reasons, to a certain extent it does concentrate on what David Olusoga said in his Guardian article about concentrating on Black heroes. And there is an enormous amount of work being done on Black Georgians who are hidden away in the rest of the country, who are not the Equianos, the Coguanos, etc. And so Paul and I agreed at the launch that we would have a discussion about how to ensure that the other activities that go along parallel with the exhibition can reflect the work that has been done elsewhere in the country to make that publicly available through talks, etc., at least to a London audience, so that people know that there are Black Georgians all over the country, both in towns, villages, and isolated hamlets.
Any more thoughts, reflections, questions?
Do you want me to stand up? My thought is actually, it reinforces my determination, and I think you will all be applauded for the work that you're doing, to continue to learn and to contribute on history. And I speak as somebody who has both black and white ancestry. And the importance for me is that I can reasonably trace one side of my family and I can't the other. And so in historical terms, it is so important that history not only gets recorded in good context, and that it gets passed on and it gets for the next generation and the generations to come. So thank you very much.
Please do.
Michael, I've tried in Kent to approach the Family History Society and the Historical Association now to begin researching what was found by the person who went through the parish records, who was a volunteer at Cathedral Archives. They turned it down, but I think this is something that we should be doing nationally. After all, there are hundreds, thousands of names in those parish records. And it is the local history societies and local family history societies who know how to do that research. Couldn't we try to meet with them and tell them how important this is, and we really need your help, and you're the experts? And
That's certainly a great idea. When you say the we, because what you have here is we're kind of a catalyst, a meta-organisation, bringing people and ideas together. And if that's an idea that you think you want to progress, then you'll have an opportunity through our website to kind of develop that if you want, and to create some momentum that way. And you'd have to take ownership of it, because we are just a medium of the people, because there are not enough of us, but there's more of you. Not just you, Marie, there's more of you to get involved.
Can I say something on parish registers? Sorry. I mean, Marika and Bassett have done amazing work in actually getting some of these parish registers to light. And when I went around looking for Africans in Tudor and early Stuart parish registers, I very much, when I called up the local registers, they were like, "Oh, do you know Marika? She's been asking these questions." So you really blaze the trail there. But I think one aspect that might actually get this ball rolling possibly is, correct me if I'm wrong, Abdul, but I think that the new, and Martin, I think the new history curriculum has a lot of emphasis on doing a local study. And if we could get schools to think, right, well, one way that we could perhaps get schools to be looking at Black British history is through if we can get them to find one parish register reference to an African in their parish, that could be the starting point for a whole inquiry of, who is this person? Why did they come here? What's the context? What's the broader context of this little one-liner in a parish register? So I think that's a way that you could get local interest in a sort of more specific way. But of course there are local history societies, and I think all of us should go home and find out who our local history society is and ask them whether they know about this and put them in that direction. But I think also something that will make this easier is the increasing digitization of these sources, because believe me, going through a 16th century parish register and trying to find these records is not a lot of fun, and it takes a long time, and you might miss things, and you can't always read the handwriting. But I think that increasingly these records are being digitised, and that's going to make it an awful lot easier to search for these things, and maybe that can become a kind of crowdsourcing effort. And I know that Kathy, you've worked with the sort of family search, that the what is it, the
IGI.
Yes, the IGI. So is it the Mormons?
Yeah, they have ancestors.
But the problem is that when I've tried to look at it, and it's difficult to search it by terms, isn't it? You've got names and surnames, but you can't.
You can't research the IGI by terms. I found a lot on there by looking for adult baptisms, because they very often, it's long and complicated to explain, but the Mormons, they retrospectively baptise people, and so they're not all that interested in their background, so you have to look for other clues like names, like adult baptism, and there are various other things. But no, it is not easy you can waste a lot of time on the IGI, I know I've done it. Ancestry, however, which is the other Mormon site, they have digitised now all the London Metropolitan Archive records. I'm not quite certain how much of them have been indexed. Certainly the National Burial Index has just been updated, and you should be able to search that through terms. You should be able to do a keyword search on that. Haven't got round to it yet, nightmare. But I'm just saying, and the Westminster stuff, that they've already gone through all of theirs, so have London Metropolitan Archives, where they've taken down the sites, unfortunately, that have more on there. They're revamping it. But actually, all the London registers, I think, have now been done. I'm not sure about the city. It hasn't been published yet or put online, but I know they're working through the city ones. I went through them myself. I went through over 1,000 parish registers, and I've got a list of them. So I have done all the London ones.
Did you have something to say about the local study?
I did, just as partly anecdotally, but one school in East London has decided that they've decided they'll probably do the migration course, and if they do, they've decided that they want to do a local study with their Key Stage 3 students, probably their Year 8s, because what they're saying is, if we do a local study around kind of the diverse population with the Year 8s, that will prepare them both for the content of the curriculum, but also for the skills they'll need when they do a local study at GCSE. I don't think do an environmental, even if it's not local, kind of when they do one of those. So that's back to the point I was making. It's a sort of trickle down idea that there is also the fact that it is the Key Stage 3 curriculum does, not every school has to follow it, but does require that they do local history. And one of the requirements that go put into the GCSE is that local history has to be there. So although boards are interpreting it in very different ways, and it ranges from exam boards that say, you will study this particular site, to boards that are saying you can study anything you choose, which is what the SHP, the OCR one does. The opportunities for local history now are there, not only at GCSE, but all the way through the secondary course, and actually Key Stage 2 primary as well.
Yeah, Martin, you pretty much covered what I was just about to say.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. And that is true. I mean, there is an obligation to cover local history now at GCSE, and that, of course, if teachers want to get their students to be ready for, GCSEs and get their grades at, 16, they want to prepare them for it earlier. I think the more pressing question really for today is, how can we get teachers to choose or sort of select figures or create curricula that perhaps reflect the student body in front of them? And really that goes back to the point that you were making earlier, Marika, about not enough people studying Black history at university, and then not enough Black people going on to become teachers, and that having an effect overall. I don't think there is a sense of amongst white teachers that they don't want to teach Black history because they're repulsed by it, or they think that it's not worthy of study. It's just because they don't know enough and it's not taught. And so I think what we need to find some way of through the BASA, Black Cultural Archives, and there are numbers now growing. So hopefully I think things are changing in society overall but yeah, making people feel comfortable about race and making the teaching of Black history alongside other histories just a commonality.
Thank you, Abdul. Well, we've served our time now. I'd like to thank the panel. And I'd like to thank you for the day. I hope you enjoyed the day. Drinks are now being served outside. Thank you.